everybody? We're gonna react to Sweaty Clown, Family Guy, decisions that aged badly. If you want to watch the original video, link will be in the description down below. The link to all of my social media will also be in the description down below. Make sure y'all like, comment, subscribe, click the bell, share the video, all that good stuff. Follow me on all my social media. Let's get started.
Has Family Guy ever done anything really wrong?
Okay, you can all put your hands down. That was just a rhetorical question. The show has changed a ton over its 25-year run, which is only natural for a show to do. However, some of the decisions the team has made can be argued to have had a negative impact on the show in the long run. So let's take a look at the times Family Guy shook things up, but didn't exactly come out looking all the better on the other side. So let's go ahead and address that large elephant standing in the corner. We're of course talking about that one decision the show made years back that could have fundamentally changed everything.
Yeah, the worst one is is that one episode of something about a endearment or whatever. I forgot the name of that episode. But yeah, at the end, Peter was like, "We have to." I'm not going to really say what, but y'all know what he said. It's like, we had the extortion. I don't know if I can actually say it because, YouTube.
Thing for the better if it had gone the opposite way. You know the one I'm talking about. The one that still keeps you up at night. The one that made you think maybe there really was no saving Family Guy.
It could even be a boat. You know how much we've wanted one of those?
Let's take the box.
Just think of where the show could have been now. Peter had a boat.
I remember that episode. I was like, Peter's. I was so upset when I saw that episode for the first time. I was like, oh my goodness. Come on, Peter. You should know better, man. Should have picked the boat. Pick the boat.
Than the one he would get next season. I'm just messing around. Figured I'd grease you up before we get to the real nitty-gritty stuff that actually makes people mad. And one of those decisions happens to be the move to break Brian and his longtime girlfriend Jillian up. While the show's never really been keen on keeping relationships running for longer than a single episode, Brian and Jillian happened to be the exception. A smarmy dog and a mentally impaired woman. It was a match made in heaven. But their relationship was more than just a joke. It was actually a great little narrative addition that further fleshed out Brian's character. Plus, who doesn't love some...
I mean, the question is, we need to really be looking at these people. Like, why are y'all dating animals? Y'all do know he's a dog, right? And y'all chose to date him? I mean, I'm looking at y'all with the side eye. There's something wrong with y'all. Like, seriously.
Drew Barrymore. She really made that little idiot one of the highlights of season 5. Obviously, a big Hollywood name like her was probably only ever destined to be a guest star rather than a solidified main character, but we still think breaking them up ultimately was a net negative to Brian's character as a whole.
Do you work with Brian at the detective agency?
Why, yes, as a matter of fact, I do, at the detective agency.
Jillian was first introduced in season 5's Whistle While Your Wife Works as the beautiful bimbo girlfriend of Brian. Really, she was kind of his polar opposite. She's sweet, optimistic, and doesn't have a single synapse firing in that brain of hers. Brian's not a scholar either, but at least he seems capable of using his brain for thinking rather than storing hot air. It's appearing seemingly destined to fail, as Brian prided himself on being knowledgeable of the finer things, while Jillian had no capacity for any of that. But they do say that opposites attract, if only dating were as simple as magnetism.
The DVD needs to be face up when you put it in.
You should be able to see the words, Mr. 3000.
While Jillian was mostly just used as a way for other characters to dog on Brian and point out his hypocrisies, we could see a little bit of positivity being inflicted on him. His need to be more patient with her actually showed some level of restraint for him. You'd probably learn to have the patience of a monk if it meant getting access to a body like that. But Brian's reasoning for staying with her is probably why the show felt they needed to break them up. It was clear he only really liked Jillian for her body rather than her personality, so Brian shouldn't have been allowed to quote-unquote win her in the end. It's not like marrying her would have been a win for him either. One season is fine, but try several years with her. Brian's brain would have been sanded down to a smooth pebble.
I just really want to go dance. There it is again! What is that?
But Jillian still showed that she could have easily slaughtered herself into the Griffin family if she had stayed longer. In the episode where she and Brian break up, Season 6's Moving Out Brian's song, she actually formed a cute little friendship with Peter. Finding someone on the same intellectual level as herself was probably as gratifying as finding someone who speaks English in a foreign country. But this would even extend to Jillian's eventual wedding in Season 7's We Love You, Conrad, where she asked Peter to walk her down the aisle. This was a nice little touch that could have extended to the other characters in the family at some point as well, but it doesn't look like we'll be getting any of that.
This is an iPod?
Did Junior Minch play MP3?
My iPod is chocolate?
But Jillian quickly became a tool used to teach Brian a lesson rather than a character to be fleshed out more. It's Brian's own insecurities that end up ruining their relationship, fearing commitment too much to strike while the iron was hot and lock Jillian down. Jillian is the one to break things off, making Brian look like the dumbest guy in the room for the first time in their relationship. Not the first time in his life, obviously, but this is where it probably stung the most.
The word self-absorbed comes to mind.
And pretentious.
Definitely pretentious.
And he's got a big ego.
And this is honestly fine for teaching Brian a lesson, but does he actually learn anything from this? Not really. He pretty much just uses this moment to inflict more self-pity on himself rather than changing himself in hopes of this never happening again. That's Alcoholic 101, so we can't really say this is the most shocking outcome. And this kind of led Brian down a rather repetitive love life, never really finding someone who was...
Yeah, he should have stayed with Jillian though, for real. She was the best person for him, you know. She may not have been the brightest person ever. I mean, you know what? No, I take that back, because he only liked her. But, I mean, it did seem that way though. It kind of was that way, that he liked her only for her body. You know? But then again, he did also actually kind of like her at the same time, but I don't know. I mean, he could have stayed with her, but, you know, he should have just, you know, been a good person to her, you know, because they would have been perfect.
Anywhere near as memorable or likable as Jillian. Kind of surprised that with her husband Derek's death, Brian hasn't tried to rekindle that old flame. Maybe Jillian's smarter than we think and knows to stay away.
He showed up at my door and said he was a federal boob inspector.
And speaking of Derek's death, we can't forget one of the most pivotal deaths that came from that same episode, and that's the killing of Diane Simmons. The Season 9 episode in that the reviewer revealed her to be a cunning killer who picked off several minor Family Guy characters before eventually being offed herself. Now don't get us wrong, she was a psycho and we're on the Bozo train with this one. But we'd be lying if there wasn't a noticeable hole left behind from Diane's absence in the show. And we aren't talking about the one in Muriel's back.
Muriel walked in, caught me in the act. It wasn't her fault, poor thing, but she had to die.
Diane was one of those characters who's been here since the beginning, appearing in Season 1's Death Has a Shadow, and quickly establishing a love-hate relationship with her co-anchor Tom Tucker. People talk about having work wives or work husbands, but these guys skip straight over that, went straight to being a work old married couple. Vocally wanting your partner to die may just be the strongest love of all.
I can do this.
That's right, Tom.
And while these two were rarely the main focus of a plot, whenever the Griffins were present, the newsroom was often delivering on some incredible jokes and exchanges. The back and forth between the two led to some grade A humor, and this helped to flesh out Quahog and make the town seem all the more lived in. It felt like these two had known each other for years, building up a repertoire that gives rivals who secretly want to sleep with each other, if only just to get a little closer to strangling each other's throats.
Well, Diane, that last report was so good, I think you deserve a spanking.
Oh, Tom, I don't think your wife would appreciate that.
But since Diane Diane died, can you really say we felt any of that recently? Now, don't get us wrong. The reveal of Diane being the killer was a genuine shock, and her motive was believable and right in line with her attitude and insecurities established in other episodes. Like Tom, she loves the limelight, and being forced out of the only life she's ever known was not gonna happen. And like Tom, she's also not a great actor, so there really was no plan B for her other than murder. A real no other choice situation.
The hidden gun goes off, kills James Woods, and at the first opportunity, I retrieve the gun and plant it in Tom's bag.
But once she died, the show pretty much lost that fun dynamic between Tom and his co-host. Sure, she was swiftly replaced with another female anchor, Joyce Kinney, but what exactly is this woman brought to the table? She had her one standout episode, and I'm Joyce Kinney, but since then the show has done next to nothing in terms of fleshing out her character, or even building up her relationship with Tom. The corpse of Diane Simmons would probably have more of an on-screen presence than this woman.
I'd like to welcome our new co-anchor, Joyce Kinney. Welcome, Joyce.
Thanks, Tom.
Wow, you sound crazy nervous.
While Diane's death may not be directly tied to this, the world of Family Guy has noticeably felt smaller to get his big break. Put my man behind the news desk. He's ready to give you all the news in the most concise way possible.
What happened last time, Ollie?
Do it, Lois! Here they got Blade! Peter went to coma! Lois came back! Was really dead!
Thanks, Ollie.
And this isn't the only loss of a character that created a noticeable hole in the world of Family Guy. The same thing happened with Peter's boss Angela, who was written out of the show after her voice actor Carrie Fisher passed away in real life. Yeah, a bit of a different situation than killing off a character for funsies. Obviously, this wasn't something the show had really anticipated very much. I'm sure the idea was to run with Angela for as long as they could with no real contingency plan. We get it. Nobody wants to be thinking about what to do when their coworkers die, but as we've seen with the string of new bosses Peter has had, maybe they should have.
She may be gone. But her voice will live on in DVD and Hulu Plus and tiny Droid-projected messages.
So after Angela was written off, Peter got two new bosses, and Bert and Sheila, a mixed-race couple whose biggest personality quirk was that they were a mixed-race couple. Yeah, even the talents of Bryan Cranston and Niecy Nash weren't saving this one. The show pretty quickly established that there was nothing to their characters, and worse, there was no real dynamic to be had between them and Peter. Peter's tomfoolery never really affected Bert and Sheila in a memorable way, leading to very few moments involving the two that are really worth talking about. Except for the time they gave Peter gender reassignment surgery while he was knocked out. Classic prank.
We fulfilled your letter of medical intent for your reassignment surgery.
But the show must have realized they weren't really working out because the couple was quietly removed from the series and replaced with the no-nonsense Preston Lloyd. Essentially what you would get if you gave a piece of wood sentience. Preston at least serves as some kind of antithesis to Peter, having little time for buffoonery and not a spark of life behind those eyes. It would make sense that this would be the direction you'd want to go with the boss for Peter, but Preston, as well as Bert and Sheila, fall into the same problems. They just aren't characters.
Beer was supposed to be fun!
I've been sober for 46 years.
How old are you?
46.
Angela had way more to her than just being Peter's boss. She was her own person.
So I've been sober for 46 years. How old are you? 46. He's never had one drink of liquor since he was born, pretty much.
With a life outside of work. Not a very good one, but hey, I'll take that over a handful of characters I believe shut down inside the brewery at the end of the day like their Chuck E. Cheese animatronics. Angela was introduced to be a lot like Preston, a serious stick in the mud who begrudgingly put up with Peter's antics. But over time, she was shown to be a lot more than that. She's insecure, self-hating, and desperately seeks human connection. Oh God, I'm not enjoying looking into this mirror.
Shut up! Everybody shut up! This took a lot of courage!
But the thing is, she had her ticks. There was more to her than just being Peter's boss. She was an actual fleshed-out character who tried to be more than just one thing. Bert and Sheila were just a caricature of progressive coupling. Preston's an avatar for all work and no play. We can't even say these characters were flanderized. They came with that factory setting the moment they entered the show.
Attention, everyone. Do not adjust your TV sets. We are an interracial couple.
And none of them have had anywhere near as important a relationship with Peter as Angela did. Angela provided hilarious reactions to the multiple missteps Peter would cause. And she would sometimes even flip the script to make Peter the one concerned about their working relationship. She brought so much to the show in this minor role that these replacements just haven't been able to capture. Sure, Bert and Sheila only got about 5 episodes of appearances, and Preston's only been around for a few seasons, but the difference in energy at that brewery is painfully obvious. I would have preferred Opie to finally get that promotion he always deserved to be upgraded to manager. You couldn't say that he didn't know the product, at least.
And I'm actually thinking about resuming my actuarial practice.
Oh my God, he's just been drunk this whole time?
And another real-world death Family Guy eventually had to reckon with is the death of actor Adam West. The iconic Batman actor had portrayed Quahog's eccentric and possibly insane Mayor West since the very early days. When the actor passed, the show was forced to find a replacement. But how could you find someone who matches the charm and mental instability Adam West brought to the table? Short answer, you can't.
Nah.
Parents. The party's over.
Never be
Everybody
anyone
get
like him.
out of here.
So after a good while of teasing and contemplating who could be coming in and taking the mayoral reins, the show eventually landed on Mayor's cousin, Wild West. You know, the show had been dying to get actor Sam Elliott's leathery voice on for a regular occasion, and this was their moment. Wild West was a much different character than his cousin. He's calmer, more rough and tumble, and I don't think he's killed as many people. He definitely has, but probably in the form of duels or something. When are we bringing those back? I'd never be able to win one as I have the eyesight of a dehydrated newborn, but I still think it could probably solve some of our problems.
Peter, have you ever killed a man?
Reddit says I've killed 39, but that seems low.
I mean, Wild West, there's not really much to go on with him, though. He's really not all that funny. You know, he's just more of a serious character so far. I don't know. They could try to do something funny with him, but I don't know. If they try to do something funny with him now, it would just seem off. So I don't know. They would just. Let's just continue.
In truth, the concept of Mayor Wild West isn't a terrible one. Obviously, we never wanted someone to replace Adam West, and we sure as heck didn't want anyone to try to do an impression of him to keep him going. This was years off the trend of using AI to resurrect dead actors, and we're glad the Family Guy team did decide to delve into that black magic. That being said, the characterization of Wild West just doesn't seem to mesh super.
Yeah, if they used AI to try to bring back characters with Family Guy, yeah. Everybody would have stopped watching the show immediately. Yeah, ratings would have gone down and everything. Yeah, so it's good that they did not do that.
Well, Family Guy's current vibe.
That's a fair point, Lois. Do you mind if I make you a sweater while I respond?
Sam Elliott is a great actor, but you pretty much know what you're going to get given Elliott's style of acting. Slow, nonchalant, and deadpan. Good for whenever you're cowpoking or whatever it is they do in those Yellowstone shows, but for a show like Family Guy, we don't think it works as well. The voice and style of Family Guy's comedies seem to have slowed down a bit over the years, not being as whip-crack and fast-paced as some of the earlier seasons. When the energy was a lot faster, the juxtaposition of this kind of character might have worked better, but now, our ADHD-riddled minds are just being lulled to sleep by the man's comforting, intoxicating voice.
You know Tom Selleck?
Oh, I used to. Many moons ago.
How many?
Many.
Look at a character we've already discussed. Peter's boss Preston. He's another character who's a very dry, very matter.
They should have him have like a cowboy showdown with someone though. That'd be really cool.
Of fact and very low energy. These kinds of characters have become less of a juxtaposition ever since the energy of the show became slower and more drawn out. That being said, we'd much rather have someone like Wild West saddling into a recurring role than someone like Preston. That mustache admittedly does a lot of the heavy lifting.
My hair follicles run deeper than the roots of a sequoia. Get him, fella.
And that's kind of what sours the character for us. He's used a bit too frequently. He isn't exactly a main character, but sometimes his presence can be a tad too overbearing. Hey, we get it. Sam Elliott can't be cheap, and you want to get your money's worth as much as you can. But while Adam West's brief appearances were filled with nonsense and zany antics, Wild West is usually just acting like the straight man for a show that really doesn't need one. The slow drawl is neat and all, but the show more often than not comes to a grinding halt whenever the focus switches to him. Less is more, and right now they need to use even less of less.
Yeah, he's pretty much one of the only serious characters. And
Borat! You know, from that picture of Borat. You ever seen?
The character has been used a lot, and we kind of think it's been a bit of a detriment to the overall perception of the character. If the character can be used a little more sparingly and in more of a ridiculous Greek god kind of way, like in his first appearance, maybe his reputation can be salvaged. But as it stands right now, we kind of wish we would have gotten a different West. Just maybe not Kanye.
I'm giving this lasagna a massage.
But if we circle back to the topic of Peter's bosses, it always kind of shocked us how little of an impact
Peter's first boss, Mr. Weed, made on the show's earlier seasons. He was Peter's boss at the Happy-Go-Lucky Toy Factory and lasted from season 1 to season 3, and yet he remained one of the most underdeveloped and underutilized characters on the roster.
Peter is an adequate assembly line worker, but you'll be happy to know our company does not pay him.
From his first appearance in Death Has a Shadow to his last appearance in Mr. Saturday Night, Mr. Weed had a total of 8 appearances. And in those 8 appearances, he did not a lot. I guess he has the privilege of being Family Guy's first gay character, even if it seemed like he wasn't totally out yet. Still, the signs were there for you eagle-eyed viewers, or more-mind viewers. Basically, anyone with eyes probably could have seen it.
Good morning. Camera time. Turn that off. I don't have my face on yet. I'm ugly.
And we didn't really get many opportunities to leave an impact on the show, mostly just being relegated to firing Peter multiple times and ogling over the nearest handsome man. He never really got an episode that revolved around him, or one where he played a pivotal role in the story. Heck, even Preston has had more prominent appearances than Mr. Weed. The most memorable thing Mr. Weed ever did was choking to death on a dinner roll. Must suck to have your death end up being more valuable than your life.
Oh my God, Lois, stall him!
Peter, what are you doing?
Just stall him, Lois!
But in hindsight, killing him off was probably ultimately for the best. It didn't really seem like the show had much of an idea of what to do with him from the jump, and honestly, having someone like Angela as Peter's boss works much better. With that being said, they probably could have done more with this character, maybe given him a little something to do in a side story. But let's be real, this was the first 3 seasons of Family Guy. The show was still trying to figure out its main character, so it's no surprise they didn't put a lot of work into this guy. Still, all we're left with is a relatively flat character that had the potential to be much more. We might need an afterlife episode to give a little redemption for all these dead characters.
What do all these people have in common?
That would be cool.
How do they know I like being slowly beckoned?
But our next issue with the character doesn't come from one being replaced. Rather, it's a complete fumbling of the character's arc in one episode that has continued to leave a bad taste in fans' mouths years later. We're of course talking about the walking back of Meg's personal victory in the season 10 episode Seashell Party, where she finally called out her family for all the BS they've done to her, only to take it all back.
Will you stop that? That is so annoying.
Oh, that was annoying? What about your stupid, obnoxious...
Yeah, that was so... I mean, they had it. I mean, they really had it, and then they just took it all away. I'm like, come on, like, really? Like, why? That would have been one of the best episodes, too, if they didn't do that. I mean, she was finally standing up to her family. Like, it's so frustrating.
This is just proof that you don't have to kill off a character to make fans mad. Sometimes you can just give them what they've been wanting and rip it away from them for no good reason. We talk about this episode a lot, so to keep it brief, the episode revolves around Meg standing up to her family for all the mistreatment they've done to her, only for her to come to the conclusion that this is the role she's meant to play, the punching bag that keeps the family together. I'd be cutting gas lines and lighting matches if this were supposed to be my destiny. Just saying.
Do you think it's possible that this family can't survive without some sort of lightning rod to absorb all the dysfunction?
The episode contained one of the series' strongest dramatic moments, and for a second, it actually felt like a turning point for the character. It was hard not to think this was something actually important happening in the canon of the show. There were some jokes in this episode, but the writers didn't hold back on the moments of uncomfortable family drama either. It was the crux of the episode, and have it all mean nothing felt like a big rug pull. Imagine if at the end of Brian and Stewie they both decided that they just hate each other. I'd respect them for their boldness, but they probably wouldn't be surprised when they got drowned.
Yeah, it was a rug pull. They pulled the rug right from under us and watched us fall down. Pretty much.
I'm to death with hate mail.
You'll have to clean my ass.
Oh God, Stewie, there's gotta be a line.
I guess we're the fools for thinking the show was ever really going to challenge the status quo. Here's the thing, though. The status quo has changed. Think about Meg's role in the show now compared to what it was back then. Sure, she's not exactly the star child of the family, but her abuse is way less frequent and way less horrendous. Believe it or not, Meg is actually allowed to be happy nowadays. That was a big no-no in the show's original Bible, no doubt. She's super talented and is always finding new skills for her to master, and most of her misfortune now comes from her own decisions, rather than the decisions of other characters. It's kind of like the punching bag grew arms and started punching itself.
Come take my money.
My hand is bleeding and I need to wash it so it doesn't get infected.
And this episode could have been a great character moment that ushered in this new era of Meg. It would have made the rest of the family seem somewhat likable, having them own up to their own failings rather than just being reaffirmed because Meg didn't want to hurt their feelings. Any and all catharsis that came from Meg's blow-up was essentially erased, ultimately ultimately leaving her as more of a pitiful character than she was before for quite a long time. Meg's been lucky enough to find her own victories later down the line, but this could have been one of the show's best dramatic episodes if they had just thrown her a bone a little early on. And let her curb stomp Peter again. That probably wouldn't fix things, but can you really argue and say it wouldn't be deserved?
My house now.
And we've got to talk about some of these cutaways, man. These things were the bread and butter of Family Guy's comedic stylings for a long time. Now, they didn't invent the cutaway gag, but they sure as hell might have invented the overuse of the gag. What was once a charming tool for nonsense comedy quickly came to be regarded as a comedic crutch.
I don't condone that, but that episode was satisfying also when she came back, from prison or whatever. I mean, in a way, she kind of did get her revenge on that episode, but the other one, when she actually told everybody off, and then they just ripped it away.
One that felt like the show was skirting by, writing an actual joke in place of a pop culture reference.
That was just awful, Chris.
Terrible.
He is not ready for flashbacks.
No, he is not.
And the thing about this is that cutaways have been tracked and monitored to a science. The greatest scientific Family Guy minds got together with their beaker.
But it's okay, Chris. One day you will be ready for flashbacks. One day you will be ready.
And rulers to measure the use of cutaway gags across the seasons to see just how often they were used. Older seasons of Family Guy often had between 5 and 10 cutaways per episode. The power of the phrase, remember the time? Some of the show's greatest bits have come from cutaways, and some are actually quite clever.
That's the only part that can be injured. How about you, Testicles?
It's the same. It's similar.
And then some are so out of left field they have no choice but to laugh at the nonsense.
Why wouldn't you look at me during?
But there was a particular turning point where Family Guy decided that they were going to start making these cutaways longer. Way longer. Like we have no idea what else to put in this episode and need the pad for time kind of long. These bits became less about the joke and more about how the absence of a joke was the real joke.
I think I know what episode he was talking about. There was that episode with the Conway Twitty, and it was just nothing but the Conway Twitty thing, like for the whole episode. That was crazy.
It's the meta 4D chess of comedy, but whether or not it actually works will probably vary based on who you ask.
Oh, by the way, Conway Twitty says cut it out. Just write a joke.
We think it kind of started with the chicken fights, which by all accounts are pretty awesome. Sure, they hardly ever actually connected to the main story, but they were at least a lot of fun. It takes actual effort to pull one of these fights off, forcing the animators to work overtime on creating wanton destruction across the entire city. You'll never hear me complaining about a giant chicken getting in the way of a story. Keep on pumping those guys full of steroids so we can have chicken fights until the end of time.
I once tried to clone a chicken. The result wound up being a man-sized chicken that was incredibly hostile and ended up escaping from the lab.
But then the show started to get a bit lazier with these longer intermissions. Eventually, they just started getting into the habit of playing whole music videos to take up time. It started out, funnily enough, with the Conway Twitty bits. Who even is this guy?
I was just mentioning that.
Hey, and why am I watching a clip of him playing on a late night show in the middle of this cartoon? Younger me couldn't fathom it, but the absurdity of this dead country star being thrown at us out of nowhere was kind of funny.
Yikes. I could use a distraction right now. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Conway Twitty.
Oh, but it didn't stop there. On more than one occasion, the show just decided to throw entire music videos into episodes with even less of a reason. The reason usually just ended up amounting to, isn't this video bad? Maybe, but you know what's worse? Being force-fed it without the show even attempting to work it into the show or making any meaningful commentary or additions to it. They do this in Season 9's Foreign Affairs with the 3-minute Dancing in the Street music video, and again with the 3-minute Hudson Brothers video in Season 19's And Then There's Fraud. The joke is just that they're very long.
We'll be right back.
But just showing us a video in its entirety just comes off as lazy or scraping the bottom of the barrel. Think about the other times the show's used music videos, like aha.
Yeah, I was like, man, why y'all doing that? Just show us the dang cartoon. Just show us some Family Guy, man. I'm like, what are y'all doing?
Take on Me or Paula Abdul's Opposites Attract. The show actually put some effort into showing the videos while still putting its own spin on them. Now that's how you get people to check out some music rather than making them want to block the entire artist's discography on Spotify.
I don't know.
Now, in the show's defense, it does look like their reliance on cutaways is trending downwards, which means more focus on actual jokes. Now, are those jokes good? That's up to you to decide. But it does seem like they've realized cutaways are best used sparingly and with actual intention to highlight a scenario or joke rather than to just fill dead air.
Now, where are the gays?
Over here.
No, the really cartoony gays. There you are. We're gonna need you guys all week.
And perhaps one of those decisions that everyone and their mother hated at the time and may still hate now was the show's decision to kill off Brian back in season 12. We've covered that saga before.
Yeah, we all remember that one.
But just to briefly cover it, Brian was killed off in season 12's Life of Brian.
There needs to be an episode where we find out who actually did it. You know, we need a backstory. You know, maybe Stewie goes back in time again. You know, finds out who did it, or something like that. We need that. And then it turns out to be Quagmire. Because Quagmire hates him.
The team had alluded to at a Comic-Con a year prior, hinting a member of the family would be actually killed off. If these betting apps are around back then, I can imagine a ton of people losing a fortune when they found out it wasn't Meg.
Yes, Chris. I'm afraid that Brian is dead.
To the show's credit, it was a shocking moment that actually had people pretty emotional. It was kind of like when Superman died. It was a pretty big deal. Probably on a slightly smaller scale. All the squirrels in the world were probably throwing a party.
That guy sucked.
But if you were severely disappointed with this move, then you didn't have to worry, because just 2 episodes later in Christmas Sky, the entire thing was undone. So you might be wondering what the point of all that was. Brother, I'm still wondering. Trying to give them the benefit of the doubt, but the only thing I can land on is that it was a ratings thing. They really needed people to tune in, and promising a death was the best way to do it. The Simpsons kind of did the same thing back in the day. Turns out there's still some things Family Guy had yet to take from them.
You find a man who did this. You bring him to justice. You make sure this age
and you can kind of tell this is all done for the ratings because the move hardly has any real impact on the season or the characters. It led with an admittedly very touching moment of grief and loss, and then it gets undercut by the family getting a new dog in that same episode.
I think Seth MacFarlane said something about it too.
You've caught too many strays, Vinny. You just happen to be in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Want another beer? No.
I'd love one.
The death of Brian could have been used in a more character-rich way, something that actually affected the characters before more or less returning to the status quo. They kinda already did this with Season 8's Dog Gone, but only briefly. There were definitely more opportunities to show how much Brian mattered to the other characters. And, you know, to the show. Not gonna lie, his absence didn't really change much about the character dynamics. Are we sure he needed to be brought back?
We should check it.
And with Vinny, they really only used him to build a relationship.
I mean, yeah, when Brian came back, he was just more of a mean person. Let's just say that.
Relationship with Stewie. Honestly, it doesn't go anywhere too interesting. Their dynamic didn't really mesh as well as Stewie and Brian's did, and he only has a few seconds of screen time with the other characters. Certainly there was much more that could have been done with this new character besides just a minor role in 2 episodes. It's anti-Italian discrimination.
Hey, everybody, we got a funny sandwich here. You.
And yeah, Brian comes back almost instantly, and the whole thing is quickly forgotten. They really couldn't have stretched this across the whole season.
Yeah, but I think, that is the real Brian, but that's the future Brian that I think they brought back, because remember the other episode when he was unalived. No, I think he had jumped off a the balcony. Stewie was gonna do it, but he didn't. Yeah, y'all know what episode I'm talking about.
Ease in, maybe make an overarching narrative that gets built on with each episode. Nah, too much work.
Hope the ratings grab ended up being worth it because this hesitance to commit to an idea and get all its worth out of it seemed to really create some distrust with the writer's room. Alright, game on!
Shoot, same thing with Stewie. Pretty much on that same episode.
And that isn't the only character Family Guy's...
I guess that doesn't really count. I don't know. I mean, because they're still the same exact people, so yeah.
Brought back from the dead. They would also undo the death of one of the show's most notorious villains, James Woods. Woods was one of the many characters killed off in season 9, and then there were fewer, a move that Seth MacFarlane said himself was canon. And yet, one season later, and Tom Tucker the Man in His Dream, James Woods is brought back to life for some reason.
Hey, Knucklebutts! James Woods! I don't understand.
Look, we know the show has very little regard for continuity and canon. You can never say never in any form.
I mean, it's a cartoon, so it doesn't really have to make sense. But still.
Heck, even Uncle Ben came back at one point for a little bit. But bringing Woods back kind of removes some of the gravity and weight from what's considered one of the greatest Family Guy episodes.
And in accordance with Hollywood
is still alive and out there somewhere in the world, just waiting for the right time to come back and get revenge. Now that's a return with some purpose.
I need a drugs guy, a girls guy, a fitness guy, a guy with a boat who can dump stuff way out there kind of guy.
So there must be a pretty good reason for bringing James Woods back, right? Sure, he was a mostly beloved character, but his real-world stock seemed to be on a downturn as he talked more and more about rightly...
I didn't really like him too much. Saw the stuff he was trying to do to Peter and whatnot.
Leaning politics. Well, like Brian, we think his return was purely just to surprise people and nothing more. I didn't really think people cared all that much when he died, to be honest. Didn't see people getting tattoos of James Woods after he died.
What is this a picture of? Is that the bottom of a white pumpkin?
Is she hot or not?
But Woods doesn't really do anything of note in this episode, or after that, really. He kind of just becomes relegated to small appearances here and there without actually having any major impact on the plot, whether it be hosting a behind-the-scenes look at the show and Inside Family Guy, or talking to himself in The Simpsons guy. You could have had a guy puppeting around his body with strings and it would have still probably had the same overall impact.
You lived in Springfield?
Yeah, I worked at the Quickie Mart researching a role.
These guys are gonna lose.
In the long run, bringing James Woods back was far from being a net positive. The move just cared too much about its own continuity, does it? We get it. Being on the air for 25 years makes it tough to remember everything. Heck, we've been doing this for like 2 years, and I can't even remember my own lore half the time. But it's hard to discern sometimes whether or not certain things that have happened can really be considered canon or not.
Okay, first of all, Bonnie, you've been pregnant for like 6 years, alright? Either have the baby or don't.
And look, Family Guy is a cartoon. A cartoon filled with giant talking chickens, time-traveling babies, and the Grim Reaper. It's not exactly the show that really needs to be beholden to some kind of concrete continuity. If it's funny, who cares if it makes sense in the show's timeline? That's why we've seen Peter's origins like a dozen times already. But not really having anything concrete to grasp onto can sometimes lessen the emotions.
Yeah, Peter's origins is always different too. It's never consistent. It's never consistent or the same. It's always different every time. When he tells a story about his past life or whatever, or his past family members.
And feelings we have for these characters.
That doesn't make any sense. You know what, Stewie? If you don't like it, go on the internet and complain.
Look at Brian's origins, for example. Originally, he was shown to be a fairly grown dog who was saved from living on the streets by Peter. This was a major element of his and Brian's relationship that not only defined their history together, but also led to an actual emotional connection. Without it, episodes like New Kid in Town wouldn't have hit nearly as hard. There's not a dry eye in my household whenever that episode comes on. Granted, my house is underwater, so that sounds a little bit redundant.
I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you. They'd probably be dead anyway, lying under some freeway overpass.
But now Brian's origins of the Griffin family have grown a lot more muddled. Now they're saying that they've had Brian since he was a puppy, which is cute and all, but far less impactful than Peter taking an older dog off the streets. They just wanted more excuses to show puppy Brian, I bet. I see right through you, Family Guy. You know there's a lot more cuteness that's been left on the table. You're gonna devour whatever you got.
When they put me in the tub, I figured it was just to rub my tummy.
What a fool I was.
And this isn't the only source of confusion in the show either. Meg's been trying to go to college many times, yet she's still being portrayed as a high school student. The rules of who can understand Stewie are constantly rewritten and altered. It's this lack of consistency that hinders the show from ever really having moments of prominent development. They can say one thing today and say a different thing tomorrow.
She's only going to get the gist of what you're saying.
Really? Isn't she one of those people outside the family who can understand me?
Obviously, it's hard to expect a lot of consistency from a show like this, but there's gotta be some effort. You don't need to have an episode where Peter's excited to meet Tom Brady for the first time after their...
I mean, they can understand him when they feel like it, I guess. yeah, that thing is also inconsistent, because sometimes they can understand him and sometimes they can't. I'm like, which is it? Can they or can't they?
There's already an episode where he met Tom Brady. Check the Family Guy wiki for crying out loud. If so few things seem to stick, why should anyone care about what happens? Especially when the show tries to have its big emotional moments. Having this through line will show people there's at least some structure to the show.
Yeah, that was cool when they had Tom Brady on there. I know they did it the first time. So when they met him again in a later episode, I thought they was gonna do something like, like a remembrance kind of thing,
It's holding on by the thinnest of threads, but at least it's there.
Wasn't your kid an acting Jaguar? Didn't your father hate your guts and die?
And a comment we've actually seen a few times on this channel actually
So I thought they was gonna do something like that with Tom Brady character. Have him see Peter again and all that stuff,
Issue with the rivalry between Brian and Quagmire. Now we've covered this feud extensively. We even have a whole video about it that you can check out after this one. Or you can watch it at the same time you're watching this one. This was always meant to be the ideal sweaty clam viewing experience. But we've seen quite a few people point out their dislike for the rivalry, so let's look at why.
Out of me way! They're after me, Lucky Charms!
Was built over time, mostly on Quagmire's end. I guess as Brian started to transition out of his identity as the responsible and wise member of the friend group, Quagmire's opinion of him really started to sour. I can't say I blame him. There are rumors about Meg being replaced with a clone, but honestly, the more believable conspiracy theory is that Brian was replaced with a much dumber dog.
Wait, that kind of did happen, though. That Meg was replaced. It happened on an episode, though.
The issue here is that we never really got to see that progression from Quagmire with his liking of Brian slowly eroding. Peter just kind of tells Brian that Quagmire hates him. That was that.
Quagmire hates me? Hates you.
I don't get it. Why wouldn't Quagmire like me?
And a lot of this rivalry, at least from what we can tell, has been kind of one-sided. Even in the thick of the rivalry, Brian has shown that he doesn't outright hate Quagmire and only responds aggressively or snidely when provoked by Quagmire. But Quagmire's the kind of guy who would swerve his car into Brian if he saw him walking up, guilty of doing a lot of the things he accuses Brian of, like abandoning his kids or treating women poorly. In fact, Quagmire's probably done a lot worse things than Brian. I know only one of them has had a gerbil and a tube inside them, and even if you were born yesterday, you can still tell who I'm talking about. And this is a bit of an issue with the rivalry. It didn't actually lead to any sense of growth or self-reflection.
See you, Brian. Thanks for the steak.
Quagmire complaining about Brian for things he's done himself would have been a great jumping off point to get more introspective with both their characters. They're more the same than they are different, so why not make that more of an apparent storyline beat instead of them just needlessly hating each other? Kinda just makes us dislike Quagmire more if you can even believe that was possible. We can excuse the crimes and the creepiness, but we draw the line at the hypocrisy.
Giraffity!
Yeah, see, that's not mine.
It almost kind of feels like the show wanted to ease Brian out of being considered one of the guys, more or less turning him into Stewie's sidekick. Don't get us
get us wrong. Those two have one of the best dynamics in the show, but it also kind of hurts the relationship between Brian and Peter as well. It feels like they hardly interact anymore, and their super strong bond has been mostly ignored by the show. And we've pretty much got Quagmire to blame for it. All those bad things he's done are one thing, but this, now he's gone too far.
I knew I couldn't trust you filthy mongrel.
He didn't do it, I swear.
At the end of the day, Brian and Quagmire are a solid pairing that's more than capable of carrying episodes. But we have to wonder if maybe the two of them would have gotten more out of a rivalry with someone who was more of a contrast to them. Then again, there is something rather genius by having these two more or less feud over who's the biggest douche at the douche convention. Hating each other is practically like hating their own reflection. And while there's a lot that can be utilized with that idea, the show just hasn't used it to its fullest potential.
Yeah, I just can't wait till the new TV series Stewie. That's what I'm waiting for. Because Stewie's gonna have his own show. I wonder what it's gonna be called. Is it gonna be called the Stewie Griffin Show? Yeah, I believe it's gonna be called the Stewie Griffin Show. I'm pretty sure it's gonna be called that.
Not a cat.
And that's our list. Are there any decisions the show has made in the past that you think were a big mistake? Let us know down in the comments. And if you liked what you saw here and want to see more, don't forget to leave a like on this video and subscribe to the...
Yeah, make sure y'all subscribe. Click the bell. Share the video. All that good stuff. Yeah, write in the comments too. You know, which episodes they had, you know, messed up on, you know, all that good stuff. Well, anyway, shoot, thanks for watching. Deuces.